O'Reilly. You need parts? O'Reilly Auto Parts has parts. Need them fast? We've got fast. No matter what you need, we have thousands of professional parts people doing their part to make sure you have it. Product availability. Just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. The professional parts people. O'Reilly Auto Parts.
There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store, or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today. You ever get that feeling the walls closing in, the concrete jungle suffocating you? You crave some wide open spaces, the chance to connect with nature, maybe in a spot all your own. Well, head over to land.com. They've got ranches, forests, mountains, streams, you name it. Search by acreage. You can search by location. You can search by the kind of hunting and fishing you're dreaming of. Land.com. It is where the adventure begins.
I guess I grew up on an older road.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 123 of the podcast. Phil, I could see you wanting to step in there, but I got it right, didn't I?
You did. You caught yourself.
All right, another week. This is our 20th quarantine podcast, and I'm feeling very melancholy. I haven't killed a turkey yet. Everyone else has killed at least 20 turkey. I mean, the turkeys are just
even I've killed 20 turkeys. It's incredible.
Yeah, quite the poacher. I feel this is I don't think I've gone this long without killing a turkey for like 10 years, maybe more. I don't count. But so I'm feeling a little weird, a little down. So we brought in Mark Kenyon to help me out. Mark Kenyon.
I'm sorry you're feeling this way, Ben. But if it makes you feel any better, I'm right there with you.
That's why you're here. You're pretty much the only other person on the team that hasn't killed a turkey.
We've got a good excuse, though.
Yeah. Progeny.
Yes.
Is the excuse.
Double duty.
Yes. We should get into it. Before we do that, I've got a few emails here asking about updates on our vasectomies. It's a big no-go over here. My wife is looking for more of these children. Where are you at?
Oh man, you're really not going to be able to get one? We're still on the snip plan right now, but non-essential surgeries are not available at the moment given our current health crisis. So yeah, we're just waiting for things to clear up on that front, and then I guess it's time to shut down business because we are not interested in more kids here at the Kenyon household. This is all we can handle.
Anyway, my turkey season has gone somewhat nuclear, and it's hard. It's a first world problem, and so I hesitate to even make it sound as desperate as it feels inside right now. But it brings up a lot of different issues, and the major issue. I mean, I've been out for roughly 4 mornings. I sat in snow twice, sunshine once, and rain once. I had a couple of fired up toms on some private lands. I watched them from public and tried to coax them over, and they were henned up and having absolutely none of my advances. And so that's like we're, I don't know what, a couple of weeks in, almost 2.5 weeks into turkey season, and that's the extent of my experience. And boy, is that rough. Mark Kenyon, you got a similar but varied thing going on over there.
Yeah, like everyone, I'm not traveling anywhere to go turkey hunt right now, so it's just Michigan for me. And the unique situation I have here is that we're trying to film a turkey hunt on the back 40. So I can't use my tag. We only get one turkey tag in Michigan. So I can't turkey hunt in a normal manner, but I have been craving just getting out there, and I just want to be engaged in it. So I've gone and done something I've been calling catch and release turkey hunting, Ben. And given your stance on catch and release, I'm sure you're going to love this.
Mark and I have argued late into the night about catch and release fishing, and so now he's doing this on purpose. He's doing this on purpose to me. I know what's going on.
So catch and release turkey hunting involves going out without a weapon, just to be out in the spring woods and hunt, quote unquote, for turkeys. Just try to get one in range for the fun of it. Since I can't shoot one and use that tag, I've just gone out there on a property that I'm not going to hunt later, and just try to call one in range. So my goal has been this year to get, quote unquote, 5 turkeys. So I want to get 5 in range in Michigan that I'll just, take a picture or film with my phone for fun. And I have gotten 1 gobbler so far in that way, and I could have killed 8 jakes if I'd wanted to. So if I had to, I could have. I had 8 jakes come up within like 4 feet of me while I was just laying on the ground. So that was pretty fun. And I've taken my son out twice, which has been probably the highlight of my turkey season. So he's 2 years old, and he's really into turkeys. Like, he's got 2 slate calls of his own that he's constantly yelping away on, and he brings them out in the woods with him, and he's yelping and pecking and clucking and just having a good time. And we went out a couple days ago and had some gobblers come in that he spooked once they got into eyesight range, and then we went out this morning for about an hour, and same thing. We had one coming in. And as soon as he got close, my son's just kind of moving around in the brush and saying, "Turkey, turkey," and doesn't bode well for close encounters. But that has been fun. So there's no meat on the table, but trying to make the best of it.
Yeah. You're shooting blanks, huh?
That's really all I want to do right now, Ben, for the next 30, 40 years of my marriage.
Yeah, I mean, your catch and release turkey hunting it's got a lot of threads to it, because I was watching you do this, and I'm like, man, I wonder. You just never know, because I feel like if I was like, oh, I'm going to go without a weapon, every turkey in the tri-state area would come running over.
Right.
And the minute that you introduce a shotgun or bow into the situation, as fate would have it, it's not going to happen that way. Anyway, there's a lot of things that we could talk about from your catch and release turkey hunting, but I just don't really know. Do you feel productive doing that? You don't feel like it's a catch-22? You don't feel just like empty? No, not at all. I mean, you're out there in nature enjoying it. You're hearing birds. You're seeing birds. I mean, a big part of what I enjoy about hunting is the process leading up to the kill. It's not just about pulling the trigger. Of course, I would love to get meat, but I'm still going to get, I think, I'll still get my turkey this year. I'll make sure to get my 1 turkey in the freezer. So it's not I'm not sacrificing that. I'm just going to get some mornings out there enjoying the hunt as best as I possibly can. Man, given this quarantine, it's a hell of a lot better than sitting in the house. So well, that's it. That's it.
That's
for me.
my silver lining.
Of the days I've been able to hunt, most of them I can get out in the morning, but I got to get back either for work or for kiddo duty, and then in the weekends it's hard to get away just because of the family situation. And your sons are similar age to my sons, so we've been procreating at a similar pace and cadence.
Yes.
And it's so I hate to even complain. It's not. I love spending time with my family, and I love turkey hunting. I've been able to kind of work it together in a way that had I killed one of the turkeys I was working on that couple of mornings, then it would be a different story. But it's just a limiting factor.
Have you taken your son?
We went out and roosted some birds a couple of times, and he scouted with me, and we called to some jakes, and they came running across the field one time. So yeah, he's been out running around with me. He, with so much scouting time and so much windshield time in Montana, just because I'm new to the area, that I'm worried about burnout where he's concerned, just riding around in a car with me for hours on end.
I hear you.
And so I have some local places now that it'll be great in the future to take him.
Yeah. I was just going to say that taking Everett is like my get out of jail free card, because if I've got him, then I'm still doing my parental duty, so I can be out there outside having a good time while also feeling like I'm not a derelict. And that's a pretty good thing.
Yeah. So we can move on for that. I will say I will keep everyone updated. I'm definitely going to work on. We still have 21 days or so of turkey season here left, and about a month of bear season left. So I'm determined to fill some tags. But it's been slow going for good reasons. As we're all aware, as much as we joke around and laugh, there's a lot of people with bigger issues than not having a whole bunch of time to kill turkeys. So we see and hear that, but man, I take a lot of stock in not only the meat that's in the freezer, as I've said a lot of times. If I was going to try to get 10 turkeys this year, 2 or 3 would be nice. But I've got a lot of intellectual property on local hunting spots I didn't have last year, and have a lot of fun time outside with the kiddos, like you said, Mark. So hopefully you
Could
get
be
that.
Worse.
Hopefully we get that back 40 hunt in.
Man, fingers crossed. I'm hoping so. They're there and just waiting for me. So turkeys and mushrooms soon, very soon.
Yes, yeah, we've had some sunny days here in Bozeman recently, and some rain today, and some rain last week a little bit. So I'm thinking mid this week to late this week is going to be mushroom time for sure. And turkeys are
Ditto.
are gobbling and have been a little bit here. I've run into some henned up fellas, but I think that will change. So just stick with us. I'm feeling like a pretty poor hunter right now. Feeling down to the dumps, I will admit. I've had a few extra White Claws this weekend, just thinking about it. But we'll get over it, all right, Phil? Lift me up, Phil. Lift me up.
Ben, I crapped in the woods this weekend.
You did not.
I did.
What?
Really?
Oh, yeah! Give a round of applause,
Wow.
Mark. His first crap in the woods.
Congratulations.
His first crap in the woods.
Thank you.
Oh my, that makes, you don't understand what that does to me. I feel a little bit awkward that I'm so excited, but I needed that. I mean,
Listen, I did it just for you because
right.
otherwise I absolutely would not have done it. And I got to tell you, it was not great. It was not a great experience.
So was this like impromptu? You were out doing an outdoor activity and you thought, well, I got to do it. I better do it to make Ben happy, or did you just go in the backyard and take a dump one time?
No, I went out for a hike this weekend, a little warm-up hike, just to get the legs back in some amount of shape before I try to do some bigger ones this summer. And
paint the picture,
but
Phil.
here's the thing.
Don't skip over this. Paint the picture. It was a. What kind of morning was it? Was it calm, windy?
it was a late morning into afternoon.
Okay.
It started out calm. It was a very pleasant 60 to 65 degrees, low winds. I went to an undisclosed trail in the Gallatin Valley. And
Were you in a riparian corridor, or were you
Yes.
in
Yes.
the foothill regions near a river? Where were you?
Yeah, I was in the southern foothills of Bozeman. And I did not have to poop. I did not have to release
man. Just say
anything,
shit.
but I forced it out for you.
Oh God!
Wow, wow.
This is really
There we
making
go.
my day, buddy. Now, we should say, do you poop in the toilet and shit in the woods, Mark Kenyon? Is that how it has to go?
I typically shit in both, but it
That's fine.
depends how you want to put it.
That's fine. You wrote an article about crapping in the woods on MeatEater.com, did you not?
I did, and I wanted to use shit in the headline, but we decided to keep it tame, and I think we
Family
used crap.
friendly.
Didn't we use crap?
Yeah, crap in
Yeah.
the woods.
Yeah.
So listen carefully as Phil talks about the situation, and then when we're done, you should grade his performance here. It doesn't
I
sound
will
great.
do that.
It doesn't sound great.
Well, here's the thing. I didn't read Mark's article, so it probably could have gone better.
Did you have any guidance, or was this all just ad lib?
I
No,
gave
this is
some
completely 100%, au natural. I was just feeling it, I was just playing it.
Let me ask
sight
you-
reading,
Let me
as
ask
musicians
you,
say.
Let me ask you a question, though. There's a key
Sure.
question here, and it
Uh-huh.
goes to the timeliness of the quarantine. Because you've never crapped in the woods before, did you have toilet paper with you at this time?
Yes. So I brought it along with, everything I needed. I brought some sanitizing wipes, some Ziploc bags. Because I wanted to make you proud. And so I was like, I'm going to go for this hike. And if nature calls, then I'll report back to Ben. And I was wrapping up the hike and I was like, I don't have to, but I'm going to try anyway. So I trudged.
Let's stop for a minute.
So
what was the dinner the night before or the breakfast?
Okay. I'm not going to go into crazy detail, but I will get there. Okay. The hike was wrapping up.
Did you have a curry? Indian food, maybe?
He doesn't want to divulge this, I guess.
I start looking around.
Hot wings? Good. Sorry, continue.
A couple coffees in the morning?
Yeah. Oh, of course. So I start looking around. I'm like, okay, I got to find a place to do this. It's off the beaten path.
Can I interrupt? I'm so sorry.
Please do. Yeah.
Did you have anyone with you, or was this a solo hike?
Oh no, this was solo.
Okay.
It was a nice day, so the trail was relatively active, but I wandered off. I tried to find kind of like a dead spot where there weren't a lot of people passing by, but I trudged into waist deep snow. I was wearing shorts, by the way, to get far enough off trail so that I could still see the trail from a distance, but no one could see me unless they were like really like looking for me.
I thought you were gonna say like I went 3 miles off the trail and about 1,000 vertical feet, so no one could see me.
Oh no, I wasn't. I wish I would have. So I drop trow, as the kids say, and I make it happen. Let's just say. It was one of those movements where it took a little bit more toilet paper than average to clean up.
Yeah.
So not ideal. The multiple coffees in the morning, Mark. As you.
That'll do it.
And so I see. I'm wrapping up. Things are okay. It was going all right. I was soaking wet. I mean, like my shoes were and my legs were. Freezing, but I did it. I was proud of myself. Then from a distance, I see a couple coming, but I'm like, oh, that's good. That's good. It's good timing because I just wrapped up. I'll head back to the trail. I'll just pretend I was like geocaching or something. I don't know. But then I hear the distinct jingle of a dog collar, and the dog immediately smells me out and what I left in the woods and just starts going to town on.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Like he got right in it?
Oh, yeah. Buried his head in the snow.
Oh, wow.
And so, of course, this couple is like, where is our dog going? They look off. They see me standing there and just like pretending like I don't know what's happening. Anyway,
wow.
So I just kind of was like looking at my phone, pretending like I was like hunting for buried treasure or something. I don't know. And so, anyway, their dog finally went back to them. I hope smelling all right, and then I made my way back to the trail and finished the hike.
Did the dog run up and then the two of them knelt down and started letting them kiss their faces? And
I was too horrified to even. I was not even looking. I was like pretending like I was on a different planet at that point.
What kind of dog was this? This is fantastic, by the way.
I'm not great with dog breeds. It was like, it was a medium-sized, very furry dog.
One of those.
One of the
yes,
yeah.
You know the ones.
Great bird dogs. Those.
Oh, Phil.
My only other follow-up, Phil, is what would happen if this was Mango? Like, what would you have done if Mango had pulled this off?
Well, so in this situation, am I the couple walking the trail with our dog, and Mango goes running off to the weird guy crapping in the woods?
Yep.
Or
yep.
Okay. So then Mango. I mean, I don't know. I would have tried to call her back a little more aggressively than this couple was doing. But if she came back like reeking of shit, I probably would have been horrified. And
be a cat person, I guess.
Yeah.
But Phil, I mean, I got so many questions. Go ahead, Mark. I mean, this is
yeah. I do have some questions about the details because you didn't read the article yet. It sounds like you don't have much experience. So I'm just curious, like, what kind of position did you try to pull it off? Because the very first time I ever took a crap in the woods, I fared much worse than you did. I actually dropped trowel, hunched down, and then just dropped a shit right back in my pants and underwear beneath me. So
Oh yeah, yeah.
at least
so
you didn't do that.
I made sure
so
not to
how
do
did
that.
how did you make sure that didn't happen?
Well, so Ben gave me a little advice last week. He was like, try to look for a log to sit on, or like a tree to like lean on, a stump or some sort. Everything was, it was very inaccessible because the snow was still, it was a north facing slope that I was on, and everything was still pretty icy and snowy. I couldn't really find a great place to just like sit. So, but I did try to lean on like a stump.
There you go. Yeah.
So,
The ultimate
I
one is
didn't-
to lean against a tree and then be like a chair, right? Like, so
Yes.
you're
Sure. I
That's-
tried to find a good spot to do that, but it was tough.
you want
Yeah,
your
the wall sit.
Yep. You want your knees, right? It's also a good workout, but you want your knees to be bent in a 90-degree angle, Phil. But hopefully that's not going to prevent you from further excursions.
It absolutely will. I will only ever crap in the woods if it's an emergency. It's not going to stop me from hiking, but it was not a great first experience.
And you didn't go over to the couple and say, "Hey, listen,
No, I did not.
had a couple of
Yeah,
black
you
Should I have?
Yeah, probably would have been proper etiquette to warn them. You know?
Stop!
Yeah. Do not kiss that dog. Do not let him lick your hands.
Yeah, I have. So if anybody's listening to this who had an experience with a gentleman that looked like Phil, and please write in and let us know if this was you. We'd love to have you on the show, and we could probably give you a full set of free First Light or something. Who knows? We'll shower you with gifts as an apology for Phil's misdeeds in the woods there.
Oh,
Oh
man.
my! Well, thanks for that, Phil. That really uplifted me, buddy. I was feeling
I tried.
so down, so melancholy, and then you I didn't know about this until just now when you sprung it upon me. I'm feeling really good, buddy. That was hilarious, and I don't know if inspiring is the right word, Mark Kenyon. Like
Encouraging, though. At least encouraging.
a man getting out of his comfort zone, which is key in life. I find
That's right.
And he practiced proper leave no trace etiquette by making sure there was none left over.
That's true. Yeah, nothing was left behind. Nothing was left behind. If only the people whose dog, well, really any listener out there has had something similar happen to you. Please write in and let us know. We'd love to talk to you about this, and give either pile more shame onto Phil or make him feel better. Either one. I'm fine with both. In fact. Well, so we got to somehow move on. I don't know how we're going to move on from this, but we somehow have to move on to
It's all downhill.
to ticks. And I guess, Phil, if you're taking a crap in the snow, you don't got to worry about ticks. That's a plus. I've got a couple of emails recently. One from Max Mattioli. We'll say Mattioli is his last name. Asking about a couple of questions, but the most relative question, the most frequent question, is about alpha-gal syndrome. Phil, are you familiar with alpha-gal syndrome?
Never heard of it.
Mark Kenyon?
You say alpha gal, like GAL?
Yep, alpha-gal syndrome.
Is this like similar to a Visco girl?
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Okay.
But
Then
thanks.
no.
No, you're not familiar with. Oh, okay. You probably are, but just not by that name. This is the type of food allergy to red meat that happens when you are bitten by a Lone Star tick,
Okay, yeah.
And that
I do
lo-
know about that.
and that tick bite transmits a sugar molecule called alpha-gal into your body. And then in some people, this triggers an immune system reaction that produces like a pretty severe allergic reaction when you eat red meat. This has been obviously, Phil, for never having heard about this, for a hunter to go hunting for turkeys or morels or black bears or whatever, it doesn't matter, whatever spring hunting activity, because that's when generally these ticks are most active and the most impactful, to go out in search of red meat or go out in search of meat in the woods and come back with a severe allergy to said meat is ultimately ironic and I think very interesting. Mark Kenny, have you know of any hunters that have gotten alpha-gal syndrome or had experiences with this?
I've talked to people. I think I've had someone on my podcast before, but I can't remember who. So I've talked to some people in passing, but none of like my good friends or family have it.
Yeah. I feel like there's, how there's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon?
Mm-hmm.
There's 6 degrees of alpha-gal syndrome for sure. I know multiple people.
That.
I know multiple people that know multiple people that have it. And the bulk of them naturally from the circles I travel in are hunters and got it, predictably got it while hunting. And so it's something you should all be thinking about. And I pulled up just an article from the Mayo Clinic because, this is one of those things that it sounds mysterious even to hear it. And there's no known cure for this. So that's one of those things that scares people as well. But the Lone Star tick is I would say a medium-sized tick that has a white dot on the top of its body. So it's easily identifiable. I've seen many of them in Texas when I lived there, but they're not just in Texas, despite their Lone Star name. I know that there are some in Michigan, Mark Kenyon, so be watching out for these little bastards. They're spread across the East Coast as well and the southeastern United States.
They're less prevalent than typical like deer ticks, though, right?
Yes, yeah, they've been less prevalent, but how ticks have kind of become more predominant across the East Coast and stretching down into the Southeast and even over to where you are in Michigan. It is not. I don't have any numbers here on the amount of them that are hanging around, but it's not. Suffice to say, this syndrome and this tick have become a topic of discussion because there's more instances of this happening. Where I had never heard of this past 5 years ago. Now I'm hearing about it every year. People are asking questions about it every year. It is a pretty constant underlying topic when it comes to spring seasons.
And that's on top of just worrying about Lyme's disease too.
Yeah, for sure. Lyme's disease is the one thing we think of when we think of ticks, but there are very many other bacteria and diseases that they inject in your body when they bite you. It's just something that always comes up, Mark Kenyon. So I know you don't have any direct experience with alpha-gal, thank God, but you got any tick prevention thoughts?
I don't have any super secret special tick advice, I guess. I just try to apply bug spray, in the places where you want it, near the, the ends of your sleeves, bottom of your pants, around your neck, shoulders, that kind of thing. And then I always do check myself quite a bit when I'm out there in the field. And then again, when I get home, I do a very thorough check every time. And I don't want to get gross here, but I will never forget. I will absolutely never forget this. There was an episode of House. Do you guys remember House?
I do. Hugh Laurie.
Yeah, great show. I remember watching it back in high school, I think it was, and there was a person who came in who had this mysterious sickness, as they always do during House, and her symptoms, the very first thing that they expected, given her symptoms, was Lyme disease. But they searched her and they could find no tick, no bite mark, nothing. There was no sign of a tick bite other than these very Lyme disease-like symptoms. So then they moved on to other things, and they spent the whole next 45 minutes of the show examining every different possible issue that it could be. Nothing matched up. They couldn't figure out why she was so sick. She was dying. This thing was horrible. And then somehow, and I can't remember the details exactly, but somehow Dr. House thought to look in her private parts, I'll just say, to keep it family friendly. He decided to check her private parts and found a tick in there. And so, for that reason, I'm just very, very careful with all tick-related searches everywhere. Make sure you check, because you don't want one of these mysterious hidden ticks to get you and to give you something like alpha-gal or Lyme's disease. So that's all I do.
That was my favorite part of House, is things looked dire until the last 5 minutes when Hugh Laurie would be like, wait a minute, and get this idea. All the doctors would be like, you can't do that. He'd be like, trust me. And then he'd end up saving a life. Yes.
I'm so
Quality
hungover.
network TV.
Yeah. Well, this podcast has kind of gone into some weird areas.
Yeah.
Both physically and tangibly and intangibly.
Hey,
But
I'm
yeah,
just telling you, be careful.
that's true. Was that a tip, or just
Yeah.
was there a tip attached to that?
Yeah, it was
Just
check everything.
Check everything. Okay,
Yes.
got it.
That's my tip.
Got it. Leave it
all
at
I got.
that. Permethrin. I'll just say permethrin is something that you should all have. I think it is very toxic. It's over 2,200 times more toxic to humans than it is to ticks. But
So you
I'm
put
sorry,
that in your clothing?
oh yeah. I'm sorry. I switched that up. It's ticks to humans. It's more toxic to ticks than humans, but it's still not a great thing to be messing around with. But I do put that on my sleeves. I put that on the cuffs of my pants and around the edges of my boots and other places where a tick might enter. It's something that'll kill a tick. It'll keep them off you. Unless I think it's gonna, when I'm hunting in early season Montana, I'm not putting that on. But if it's in the dead center of spring and I'm rolling around belly crawling through weeds in Texas or Missouri or Michigan, where there's gonna be lots of ticks, it's something you really, in my opinion, can't go without. It's important to know what it is and what it does. But permethrin is something I think really will help you. And so I'll tell you, Max, that other than that, and like I said, about half a dozen emails about ticks in the last week or so. I remember telling Cal this when we were hunting in Texas for axis deer. When I can get a shower, I take a shower. Like if I'm doing a full day hunt and I can skip back to the lodge and take a shower in the afternoon, and that means it's not going to totally screw up my hunt, I will do it. During these spring seasons, because you don't want Lyme disease, you don't want chronic Lyme disease, you don't want alpha-gal syndrome, you don't want anything like that. And so while it may seem overly prescriptive to take 3 showers a day while you're out spending time in tall green grass and sitting up against trees that'll have ticks on them, it's not to say being overly cautious is a good thing. Because Lyme disease, unlike alpha-gal syndrome, I'm sure we all know people that have had problems with Lyme disease. My dad has it, and my mother-in-law has chronic Lyme disease, which is awful. It turns into arthritis, and so
I think awareness, just being aware, is an important thing. Just when you're out there at that time of year, just constantly checking your sleeves, checking your knees, check your boots. If it's tick season, I just am always looking for them. The best thing to do is, find them before they get on your skin. So just keep tabs too. I think that's an important first step, is just make sure it's not something you let slip your mind.
Yeah. Got it. All right. Well, we're moving on. Phil, hopefully you don't have any. I hope you continue to crap in the woods when necessary, but in the spring season, just be wary, okay, buddy? And
Will do. No, the one tick bite I've ever gotten, it burrowed into the crevices down there, kind of close to where Mark was talking about earlier. So,
Yikes!
yeah,
What?
it was not a great experience.
were you aware of what Mark was talking about earlier?
Huh?
It was a female patient?
Well, yes, I understand, Ben, but it was in that same general area.
Oh, the crotchal region. Okay.
Yes.
I was just confused for just a moment.
Would you
there.
like me to be more specific? It was around the taint area. I think it's called the perineum. Is that it?
There you go.
That's the gooch. I think that's the technical.
Got it. Okay.
Nacho.
Yeah. We'll have to put a disclaimer in the front of this podcast, like, hey, man, like, sometimes it just goes this way. There's nothing we can do. It's not our fault. It's not our fault. This is a medical emergency. Last email before we get to our friend Donnie Vincent and what was a very interesting conversation about nature and the pandemic and viruses and just turkey season, everything you can think of with our friend Donnie Vincent. One last email, and that email is going to come from Anthony. Man, why get some real? This is like Musciotto. How would you spell that? Musciotto. Phil, give me that.
Masciuto?
Masciuto?
Masciutio?
Masciutio?
Masciutio? I don't know.
Anyhow, This is one for you, Mark Kenyon, because I feel like you have a unique perspective on this given your past career. But he's asking, hey, Ben and Phil, he goes on, he says, the reason I'm reaching out today is because as a 23-year-old graduate who is also a devoted outdoorsman, I have started to search the job market in the outdoor industry. I have a degree in professional sales and experience in business management, but my passion resides within the outdoors. I want to use my degree and combine it with my passion, which is the hunting and fishing. I've been Googling and surfing the internet, but nothing has really piqued my interest, and I haven't had much luck searching for what I am looking for. Any advice on starting my search or searching in general, how to make a career out of this? When I read this, I'm like, I was glad we were having you on today, Mark, because you have a unique perspective. And it's maybe a little bit of the reverse of what Anthony's working on, which is kind of just making your own way instead of searching the market.
Yeah, but I think there are some parallels in that, I came from a sales and marketing background, worked for a big tech company, and at the same time as I was starting that career, I was also starting my own thing, which was Wired to Hunt. And so I was trying to grow this, like as you said, make my own way by growing this business in the hunting world to be something that I could combine my passion for the outdoors and hunting with, some means of business. But I think that what I learned through that process applies to trying to get a job within this community too, which is find what your thing is. So find what you're uniquely qualified to do or uniquely passionate about, or that you have this unique value you can bring. So for me, it was realizing, okay, it's communicating, it's podcasting, it's writing, it's that kind of thing for me. For some people, it's photography. For some people, it's business. But find what your thing is, and then just start tapping into the community network. I think it's been said 1,000 times, but it's so true that networking, meeting people, getting involved with this community, the hunting or the outdoor or the fishing community, whatever it is you want to be involved in, just finding ways to get involved. So that's maybe starting by going to the ATA show or going to SHOT Show or going to local events or getting involved with conservation organizations or volunteering or taking an unpaid internship or any way you can get involved with companies or organizations or groups of people that are in this world, and then start showcasing whatever your unique value is, that leads to opportunities. So for me, that meant writing a bunch, that meant eventually launching a podcast, that meant making videos, and then just doing it over and over and over again and reaching out to as many people as I possibly could over the years and building connections with people, magazine editors, companies, different folks, and over time, opportunities arose. And I think the same thing can happen with someone who's got a business degree who wants to get in this industry. I think if you meet folks, show your value, do that enough, people will present opportunities and good things can happen. So it's absolutely possible.
Yeah. Yeah, you just gotta. I get this. I don't know if you get this question a lot, Mark, but I get it pretty frequently.
I do.
And it's understandable. I mean, I'm sure I had a similar question. In fact, I don't know that I had this question because I wasn't aware. I wanted to be a sports writer coming up. I wasn't aware you could be. I was aware there was hunting media, but I wasn't aware that it would be a career that anyone would pursue. I never considered it. Probably to my to my downfall early on, but then when I realized it was something, I kicked that damn door in and ran right through it, and I'm like, I'm not going back out the other side, and you're going to have to push me out. So that's often my advice. I mean, you have to look for a way in, look for a door, and when you see it, you kick that son of a bitch as hard as you possibly can, and you do not let someone push you out the other side. And that's as simple and as vague as simple as it is. Everybody has a different story about how they what door opened for them and how they kind of got in there, but it's about being able to recognize those opportunities and not let them go by.
Yeah, I think your point is a good one in that it requires a proactive approach. Things aren't just going to just drop out of the sky on top of you. You have to seek them out. You have to be looking for them, working for them, looking for what that opportunity might be, or at least trying to put yourself in the position to receive that opportunity. This isn't something you can just sit on your laurels and then mysteriously all of a sudden, oh, this great thing in the outdoor industry drops in your lap. No, it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to require kicking down some doors. But if this is what you really love, it can be worth it.
Yeah. I had a friend, a guy I met, he's a friend now, but a guy I met on a media hunt some years ago. He was taking photos. He was a freelancer and had been hired by a company to take photos. And we were sitting around a campfire, and he is asking me this question. Hey, he was 21, I think, or 2 at the time. Like, how do I turn what I'm doing right now, this moment, what I'm sitting here with you doing, which is having a good time, taking photos and hunting and enjoying life. How do I turn this into a career? And I said, you've already had your opportunity. The fact that you're sitting right here is your opportunity. The question is now, what do you do with it? You're luckier than a lot of people. I think he had met someone that worked at Bushnell Optics, and they had thought he was talented and young and cheap and gave him a foot in the door. And I said, this is it, man. This is it. If you don't ask that question anymore, because you have the opportunity already that many people will have to fight a long time to get. So it's up to you now to take this and run with it. So there's no formula. He did. Yeah, he did. He now has a career in land management and real estate, I think with Whitetail Properties, I want to say. And then as a cameraman on the side. I want to say that. I'm not sure.
Cool.
Exactly. But he's in the industry and working and doing what he loves. Still a young man, still a long way to go, but had turned that opportunity into something more. So there's different levels of it. But hopefully, I'm sorry about we got your last name wrong, Anthony, but hopefully, Anthony, that helps you, man. Search for that door, and when you find it, kick it in. And as Mark said, just proactivity, because it's not going to come to you. And certainly, if it does come to you and you're that lucky, do not mess it up, because this is something that a lot of people want to do. As evidenced by the questions we get and the things that come out of here. All right, well, we're going to move on to what I'm calling, Phil, the Ballad of Eric Hall. Our favorite listener, our sweet, sweet man. We caught up with him. We wanted to just catch up with him and just see like what his home life was like. But also I figured because Eric has been on the show a ton, his recorded voice has been on the show a ton, because he sent me a voicemail the other day. He's been such a part of the show for the last 120 some episodes. Since he's been listening, it'd be nice to have him on, check in and make sure he's okay, and do a little bit of a recap of some of our favorite Eric Hall moments from the last 100 episodes. And so Phil's going to work late into the night tonight building this. He's shaking his head that he's not going to do it. No, he's going to work the minimal amount on putting together the Ballad of Eric Hall, and then we will catch up with Eric Hall. And after that, we're going to go right into Donnie Vincent. Today's interview subject is Donnie Vincent. Donnie Vincent is a man with a lot to say. He's had a lot of life adventures, a lot of life experiences, and is a great biologist and conservationist. He's a sleeper when it comes to those two subjects. He really knows more than he lets on in some of his films and his platforms. So he's great, man. He's got a lot of surprises for us in this episode. First, enjoy Eric Hall.
Ben, Eric here. I can't get around. I gotta say something. He keeps bringing up pain and suffering, and I understand that the commercial market, yes, there's pain and suffering involved in the way pigs and chickens and cows and stuff are raised. But that turkey the other day that I shot in the head, there was no pain or suffering. So I'm not saying I didn't take its life, and I understand the taking of the life part, but there was no pain and suffering involved in that. I took his life because I'm going to eat it. I can't believe Phil wasn't but a 2.5 disappointed he can get to go turkey hunting. But we're going to give him a pass because he don't really know what he's missing yet. So we're going to give him a pass.
Hey, I was an Army medic. I'm a little bit out of practice, but I did help do a vasectomy about 30 years ago. in the office when I was in the Army. I think I can still do it if y'all interested. They say watch one, do one, and teach one. So I think I'm good if y'all up for it.
Please stick to podcasting. Leave the rapping to Eminem. I concluded that Steve's an asshole. You can tell what he's talking about Phil, talking to Phil. He might be just a tad bit better than Phil because he hunts and I got a hunting show. Phil's just an engineer. So, Phil, you keep it on there. Ben, you keep on embracing Phil.
O'Reilly Auto Parts are in the business of keeping your car on the road. O'Reilly Auto Parts offer friendly, helpful service and the parts knowledge you need for all your maintenance and repairs. If you're confused about what part you need, like what wipers are going to be the best, what replacement headlights are going to be the best, go into O'Reilly and talk to the people that work there because they're great and they're super friendly and they'll get you squared away where you walk out knowing you got the right thing. They've got thousands of parts and accessories in stock, either in-store or online, so you never have to worry if you're in a jam. Do you need your windshield wipers replaced? You need a brake light fixed? You need some quick service? They'll help you find the right part or point you to the nearest local repair shop for help. The professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts are your one-stop shop for all things auto do-it-yourself, and you can find what you need in-store or online. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit us at O'ReillyAuto.com/MeatEater. That's O'ReillyAuto.com/MeatEater. There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today. You ever get that feeling you're stuck inside staring at screens and a primal urge kicks in? You crave wide open spaces, fresh air, the chance to connect with the land. Well, maybe it's time to find your own piece of the wild, but searching for property can be a maze. That's where Land.com comes in. They got millions of listings across the country, from mountain ranches to hidden fishing holes. Their search tools are like a seasoned guide helping you narrow down what you want. Land.com isn't just about buying and selling. It's about finding a place to hunt, fish, explore, or simply sit by a campfire and listen to the crickets. So head over to Land.com today to turn one day into today, because trust me, there's nothing quite like the feeling of standing on your own piece of earth.
All right, here we are with another sheltered perspective, because we haven't come up with a better name yet, and nobody's written in and given me a better name for this segment. So we're gonna go with it. And Phil, we have maybe the most special guest of all time with us right now. Our favorite TAC listener, the great Eric Hall. Say hey, Eric.
Hey, good to be here.
It's good to have you. I'll let Phil. Phil, I want you just to, what do you have questions for Eric? I want to ask him anything? I feel like you guys need to build a rapport since you've screwed it up so bad with your 2.5 turkey comment.
Well, I mean, Ben, you jumped right to it, because before we hit the record button, I said hi to Eric, and the first thing he said to me was 2.5, 2.5. So yeah, Eric, I'm just wondering if you've been offended by my rating, or if you are a defender of my opinion here.
Actually, I was a little deflated. I thought 2.5. He just don't know what he's missing. So we're going to let him have a pass, because he doesn't have any perspective yet. So
yeah, exactly. I'm aware of my shortcomings in this department, but I'm hoping to get out there as soon as I can. So.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. I feel like we're all closer now. Phil, you're not offending as many listeners. Everybody's learning to tolerate you as I am.
Yeah, thanks.
And I was, I've gotten about 3 or 4 emails of people sending links to online hunter safety courses, and also had somebody from the state of Montana email me a thing where there's an apprentice hunter program. So there might be some options for you.
Okay, that's good.
You and I will just have to stay about 6 feet apart the entire time.
All
so
right,
it'll be hard. It'll be hard for me to tell you what to do, but we'll see if we can make it work. So there is hope. There is hope. But Eric Hall, I need to ask you is how did you discover this here program?
Actually, I've been listening to the THC probably way back.
Pre-fill?
Pre-fill, yes, pre-fill. You were in Texas, and I listened. I even went back. I don't remember when I started exactly, but I even went back and picked up episode 1 and came on. So I'm way up to date.
That-a-way.
Yeah, I drive like an hour to work, so I have to have something to fill that hour coming and going.
I love it. Is it your anniversary today?
It is. 32 years, my wife, Anita.
Happy anniversary to you guys.
Yeah.
How many kids do you guys have?
We have 2. I have a daughter. She's in Pennsylvania. She's a nurse, so she's dealing with this coronavirus stuff a little bit in her job. She is actually at a rehab nursing facility, I think, for elder people. But yeah, she's dealing with that there a little bit. And then I have a son who's Tyler. He's 24. He still lives at home. I don't see him much.
Well, it's good to have you on. Like I said, you've left us some of the most epic commentary that the show has ever seen. So we've always appreciated your contributions. This as I was telling you before we hit record, this segment is really about kind of reaching out to the people that are important on the show and just seeing how they're doing and finding out what the perspectives are. I know you killed a turkey, and I also know that we were going to invite you to Christmas, but you spent last Christmas with Vice President Mike Pence, so you probably would have. You were big leaguing us, so that's fine. But before we get to that, like what's the quarantine kind of done for your life, and how you doing over there?
Okay, as far as quarantine, I'm still working. My wife's still working. She's a daycare teacher, preschool teacher. So they've asked them to stay open because of people that can't find childcare. So they're open because of that. I work for a company called CommScope, which we make everything to do connectors with your internet, your broadband, any kind of networking. You're using CommScope right now, but we did one interesting thing. We had an order come in from it was associated with Ohio State, a field hospital they'd set up for a testing for the coronavirus, and we had an order come in for stuff to do their infrastructure with their internet, and the team jumped on that thing, and it was actually 3 different plants was involved, but they jumped on it. I think it come in on April the 5th, and we had it shipped out to them. I think they had it like on the 7th, so that was really good that we could help with that.
That's good, man. That's good.
And then I think, Google's and Amazon's and all those are a lot of people on the internet right now, so they're kind of expanding their internet capabilities.
Well, it's good. You've been supporting THC from behind the curtain all along.
Behind the scenes, yes.
I love it, man. Well, you got to tell us a little bit of your story. We made the joke in previous episodes that we loved you and we wanted to have you for Christmas, but you were just telling me that you got to go spend some time with Mike Pence over Christmas, and you were big leaguing us.
I did. Actually, my son-in-law works for the White House Communications, and he's stationed at Camp David. He's in the Army, so I got to spend. Well, he didn't get to come home for Christmas, so he had to stay over there. But we went over there as a family, and had dinner with him. And then shortly after the dinner, we went to the chapel and had Christmas Eve service with Vice President Mike Pence. Got to meet him, shake his hand, speak to him just a second. That's a pretty good honor.
That's pretty good. I'll take it.
I did shake one other president's hand one time, and that was President Ford. He came to West Wilkes High School in Wilkes County, North Carolina, when I was a little guy, probably 10, and shook his hand. But yeah.
That's awesome. My little guy's in here wondering if he can jump on the podcast. you gotta go, buddy. All right. Love you too.
My dad actually had a press pass. My dad's a retired police officer, and I've got 4 brothers. So we
Nice.
all went to President Ford, and we were up front. And Dad actually went back through President Ford's library and found pictures of 3 of us shaking hands with President Ford. That was pretty neat.
So yeah, you've been a big deal all along.
Yeah.
Whenabouts did you start hunting? When was that? Was that something always in your family, or did it start later on?
Oh, yeah. Dad, I started, I would cry when I didn't get to go when I was probably too young to go. I had 2 older brothers. But Dad had 5 boys, so he would drop the oldest off and hike the mountain up. And this is deer hunting. And he would hike the mountain up, dropping each son off as the age got younger. And the youngest one sat with him. But yeah, we've been hunting for a long time. And squirrel hunting, like we would come home from school, and squirrel hunting was like going out west. I mean, we boots greased up, gear laid out, we were ready to go.
That's a pretty good strategy for your dad to leave the older kid further away and then kind of like match it down until the little one with him.
It put him walking the furthest distance with the youngest kid, though. So,
Yeah,
but it worked out.
That's true. That's true. All right. Well, before we let you go, I want to hear this turkey story. I was telling you that I've been out here struggling in Montana in the snow and the cold, and you got a turkey on the ground, didn't you?
I did get a turkey.
We got to hear the story, my man.
I actually went Saturday and hurt some turkeys. Didn't get on anything. Went back Sunday morning. We can hunt till 9:30 here on Sunday morning on private land. So got back daylight, owl hooted. They gobbled. There's probably 4 or 5 different ones. 2 close enough I thought I could get. So I started calling the one. He in the holler to the left of me. I kind of knew I should have. I set up kind of wrong. You know how you kind of get that feeling I might have set up wrong. Well, it worked that I had set up wrong. He was actually over the hill like 20 yards to my left. He come around behind me, and of course he come in the view, and I didn't know he was in the view. I turned a little bit to look, and of course he seen me, and it don't take them just a minute, just a second to get out of there.
Yeah.
But the one in the holler kept gobbling, so I had actually moved back up the hill 50 yards because I heard another one gobble to my right. I called him a little bit. He was coming across the holler. So I moved back down 50 yards, set up for him, and the one that was to the left in the holler started gobbling more. He's the one that ended up coming. He come right on up, 25, 30 yards. Pretty much a chip shot for 30 yards. But yeah, worked out real good. Weighed 22 pounds, had like a 10-inch beard.
Ooh, 22 pounds?
Yeah, he was a heavy bird for a mountain bird, really heavy.
No kidding, yeah. That's as big as they get in most places. That's
Oh,
awesome,
yeah.
man.
So I'm gonna have to maybe fix my wife some turkey nuggets for anniversary dinner.
I like,
Can't go nowhere, so
that's not a bad anniversary plan.
not bad.
32 years. Well, man, you got anything you want to ask me and Phil? Because here we are. We're happy to unlock the secrets of THC for you, man.
Yeah, I just say I really enjoy the guests y'all have. Y'all have a variety of guests. I love how you interact with Phil. I mean, I listen to the Meat Eater podcast too, and the Closing of This. I listen to all of them. Yours is probably my favorite. I like how you interact with Phil, and then you interact with some of the guests, even the contest you have with amazing gifts. Amazing gifts you give away.
I want to be kind of like the Oprah of hunting, you know. I feel I'm gonna have a book club, and I'm gonna give people a lot of stuff. So that's my new thing.
Yeah, and when I'm driving home and I'm listening to the podcast, something comes up right at that time. Like when you said send in a voice message, that was right on my alley. I can do that while I'm driving. So I don't have to type nothing or do nothing like that. So that worked out pretty good there.
Yeah, dude, you have knocked it out of the park many, many times, made us laugh many, many times. So we appreciate you as much as you us. And I'm glad to hear that you're still working and you're up and moving around and out killing turkeys and about to have a good anniversary evening. So we're happy about that, man. I'm glad you can do it and stay safe out there. It's
a lot of hand washing, a lot of hand washing. Staying. Oh man, I washed my hands so much, but yeah, I did wear my mask to Walmart. I had to go to Walmart this morning, but I did wear my mask, and my daughter's on to me about that. She's a nurse and everything, so.
Well, that's good. Well, I hope she stays safe too, and hope the whole family is safe during this time. And we'll keep listening to those voicemails and putting them on the show when we can, and hopefully we'll keep your commute entertaining. Right, Phil?
That's right. Thanks a lot, Eric.
Very, very much so. I appreciate y'all.
All right, man.
Okay, y'all take care.
Donnie Vincent, what is up, man?
Nothing. I'm talking to you. I'm happy to be talking to you. Nothing's going on. I'm like everyone else. I'm working from home or the woods or the cabin that I'm sitting in right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think of all the people, we've done a lot of shows now. We did 15 daily shows, so we're on like the 18th podcast during quarantine. And of all the people I was, excited to talk to for perspective on this strange time, I think you're at the top of my list, just because I know you've thought this through. I know you've probably modeled. I mean, your life is probably not as much changed as some people, but I'm just interested to like how you approach this. What's your mindset?
I mean, it's very complex, right? It's on one hand, I'm trying to learn as much as I can about this virus just so I can educate myself, learn what's going on. I'm interested in viruses in and of itself, just the idea of what it is. It's a pretty fantastic biological element. If you think about really what it is, obviously it's causing a lot of mayhem right now, but just in and of it, what it is itself and how it travels through an animal population. So I just have wanted to learn as much as I could about it. That way, when more of these things happen to us as people down the road, it's just good to have that knowledge base. But it's, on some regard, to I think a lot of people, and I'm surprised myself, but to a lot of people, this is, no one saw this coming. This is something that is unprecedented. It's never happened before to this extent, and to a lot of people on the face of the earth, this is shocking that their lives could be disrupted this much. And to me, not to sound callous, and I don't mean this in a callous manner at all, because there's a lot of people that are suffering, a lot of people that are suffering financially, and a lot of people that are busting their asses to save a lot of other people's lives. But to me, this is just a virus traveling through an animal population. And, if this happens to a wild population of deer, or, a species of bird or a type of bird, a select group of mammals, subpopulations, it comes in, does its damage, and moves on. And the animals that survive have resilience. But to us, we travel on airplanes and trains and buses, and we have developed these massive, massive cities. And so when the spread happens, it's unique in that fashion that we get to spread to a massive population. So I'm just trying to learn as much as I can and help out wherever I can.
Yeah, that's a good way to approach it. We have, like I was telling you earlier, we've had a lot of guests on, and the refrain in our community, like our hunting community, and like I said, this is only over a small sample and it's very anecdotal, but everybody seems okay. And everybody's drawing on like, I have certain things I want to control. I want to be self-sufficient. And I think this situation, this quarantine is kind of a test of that, right? It's like a test of what you can do outside of the structure of society. Like when it breaks down, are you helpless or are you, the one to step up and help? Have you thought much about kind of what this means in terms of control and self-sufficiency?
Yeah, and I don't feel very ready. There's one group of people, you look at the prepper type, right? And I'm kind of curious what preppers are going through right now. I wonder if preppers are sitting in their houses going, oh, crap, do I actually open up my can of beans that I was saving for, like, is this a bad day? Do I actually start using some of my supplies? What do I do here? I can still go to the grocery store. This isn't a real situation where there's no food, no gasoline, no diesel, no clean water. So, we're kind of kissing that edge of what you kind of need. But in another realization, I have more backpacking gear and hunting gear, certainly than the average person, probably quite a bit more than even the average hunter. And I feel like I have a really great set of skills that need to get much better, that need to get more extensive. But I think about, personally, I think about just preparing myself even a little bit better and understanding where I would go, what I would do, because cities, really these populations of people where many of us call home, even in established towns, these are the areas that are going to become really problematic, because the people that lose resources, food, water, gasoline, they're gonna extremely overreact and be in a panic and probably falter to a great extent. Whereas if somebody is, when all of this stuff was kind of brewing, I was in Canada on an island filming a commercial, and when it all kind of started to happen, I thought to myself, I was at a friend of mine's places where we were stationed out of, and I thought to myself, if I were him, I would be traveling right now to get to this cabin. And it's a beautiful cabin on a beautiful lake. It has a lot of resources for both hunting and fishing. And I thought this would be one of the places that you'd want to be. You could drink the lake water. There's tons of fish in this lake to catch and eat. There's firewood. There's things to build shelters. You're already in a shelter. Even if you run out of petrol, there are things that you can access in canoes, and there's things that you can access by foot. And so I just started to really look at the elements, really breaking it down. Because if your secondary plan is that you're going to load all your guns and you're going to sit inside of your house in the corner of your shelter with a Benelli M190, and you're going to sit there and defend your house and your food and your water, that's probably not going to be very long lived.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. It's like I said, we've talked about this a lot, in that this is something I've done, and I do this almost involuntarily. I've opened up my freezer just to double check, even though I know what's in there.
Yeah,
just to feel a little comfort, feel a little control. I do the same sometimes with my gun safe. Open it up, take a look in there.
Yep.
I'm not grasping those things for my dear life, but I am glad they're there.
Oh yeah, and somebody was telling me they were in a gun store the other day, and they said, man, tons of people in there are buying guns and tons of people in there buying ammunition. And on one hand, I'm thinking, okay, I hope all these people that are buying guns and ammunition have their, wits about them, and they're just doing this as, I've been meaning to buy guns. I've been meaning to buy ammunition. I'm going to use this as kind of a spark to do that. And I'm sure that's what most of these people are doing. And on the other hand, I was thinking, fantastic, because, when our politics change, sometimes the gun stores and the ammunition falls very quiet, and so sales really dip. And so for me, it's kind of fun to see people buying guns and ammunition again, and I think it's great that people are stockpiling, and that some of these gun companies and ammunition companies are going to be having an uptick in sales and things like that. So yeah, it's just earmarking the things that you have, the things that you can do, and really where your mind lives. For me, if I had to, let's say we had a complete digression of what we are as a species and who we are as a people. Gasoline stopped, food stopped, water stopped, and you had to grab your wares, you had to grab your stuff, head off into the woods, head off into the wilderness, drive your truck as far as you could before it ran out of gas, throw a backpack on, head off into a place that you wanted to live quite literally the rest of your life. Not until things got better. Things aren't going to get better. You're just going and living until the rest of your life, whether that be a night, a week, a year, a long life, whatever that may be. Having an understanding of what that would look like and how you would feel is pretty interesting to me. And I would feel, I'm not going to say relatively comfortable with that. Obviously, that would be a complete upending of who we are and where the earth is right now and where we are as a people. But if I had to go establish a shelter in the woods, if I had to just use the rudimentary gear that I have, and whether that be a recurve bow or a compound bow or a rifle or pistol, whatever it was, and use my ammunition until they were gone, and even retract back to a spear if it came to that. I mean, these are things this is where my mind lives anyway. I'm not celebrating that, but in a weird roundabout way, that's where I enjoy spending my days in my life anyway, which is why we're talking on this podcast. It's kind of become my job, and it's fantastically rewarding. But to the people that aren't into it, to the people that spending time outdoors doesn't speak to them, I'm sure this is like a baseball bat to the side of the head out of left field. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I know a lot of people that are like that, and I was trying to articulate this to my wife the other day, just saying, like, when I look at those mountains, I enjoy that. I mean, it looks rough, it looks hard, but I enjoy it. And hunting is like some weird bridge to the idea you're just talking about. Like, at least I'm not actively, happily walking across that bridge to get to the other side where I just live in the woods all the time. Yeah. But at least I know what that bridge looks like. And if I had to, I could conceptualize what it means to just disconnect and go and do this. And in fact, one of the first things I started thinking about when this popped up in a more serious fashion was like, well, what Forest Service cabins can I go to? What fire towers in the Gallatin National Forest can I get to? Where would I get my water? And just like kind of filling in the holes that I knew were there. But you're right, man. If I didn't know the first place to start, if hunting hadn't been that bridge for me, it would be scary as shit. I mean, there's no way around it. If you didn't understand kind of the outside world and you were completely disconnected from it, this has got to be earth-shattering. It's got to be.
Yeah, I'm curious, and I don't want to go down it's funny because I'm not a very politically correct guy, and yet I am, because I'm not going to, there's things that I think about that I want to say on this podcast or every podcast I do that I'm not going to say because I would get strung up in a witch hunt. But I'm curious of the people that are anti-gun owners, the people that I'm curious if any of them have wanted to, or how many of them, I know some of them have. I'm curious if some of the people that were against guns are kind of thinking, you know what, I'm still against this certain type of gun, but if they're talking to their husband or they're talking to their wife saying, honey, I really do think I want to go to the gun store now and learn how to use a gun and at least acquire a gun for our home or for our own protection. But it's a very unique time to think about, even thinking about being a hunter, being a vegetarian, being a vegan. Like, if you're a hardcore vegan, this has got to be really scary, because I would think the specialty type foods, the foods that these companies have to really engineer for vegans, I would think that these would be one of the first staples that grocery stores would stop getting. If they had to choose what they're going to get, it's going to be vegetables, meat, milk, soups, crackers, things that have long shelf lives, things that are perishable, but they have to move, and things that have a long shelf life. And so I wonder, 15,000 years ago, when we were all hunters and gatherers, there weren't any vegetarians. There weren't any vegans. There weren't any people that were anti-weapon. We lived as animals. We thrived when there was food. We perished when there wasn't. We thrived when we had one baby. We likely lost a second child if we had two. And, losing men to hunting, losing women to hunting, losing men and women to war between tribes, losing individuals to starvation, to exposure to elements, things like this. This is the people that we used to be. And so I just wonder, I'm not going to call it an evolution, because I think when push comes to shove, we are not totally removed from who we were as hunters and gatherers. That's this is where I compartmentalize in my mind. You take men and women that are Green Berets and Navy SEALs and Army Rangers and fighter pilots and some of these people, and I think about them. This is just I'm not drawing a line in the sand. This is how I think about them. But I think these are the people that trend more towards, these are the people that have not moved so far from the zone of comfort that they are still able to tap into their bodies and into their minds to reach an uncomfortable state. And there's people that can't, and there's people that can. And so I just kind of wonder, these, call them Zulu warriors, our Navy SEALs, our Green Berets, our Army Rangers, like these guys are kind of who we used to be. And I think push comes to shove. Like, Ben, you probably have things where, maybe you get cold, maybe you don't like the heat, maybe you don't like to exercise, maybe you don't like to fight, but I'll bet you $1 if I come into your house to take your life, I'll bet you're going to find, even if, let's say, you can't get to your guns and we have to do this with knives or by hands, I'll guarantee you're going to fight harder than you thought possible.
Yeah.
That's truly, we are truly designed to be warriors. And so I wonder through all of this, if people that, specialty diets, if they, people that, drive electric cars, people that get on a soapbox, even people that are into politics, things that really do not matter into survival. They're not food, they're not shelter, they're not water. I really wonder where those people's minds have kind of floated in this idea of things. And I think for the first time ever, I've thought this way my whole life, that we could stem into a realm where people are going to have, we could have a massive die-off of individuals. We could have a massive disruption in our infrastructure of delivered goods and in our electricity and in our communication. And if that happens in our banking, if that happens, we could, in a very short period of time, let's call it less than 30 days, we could revert back to almost tribal type living. I know that sounds super extreme, but if you take away a lot of these creature comforts for people, and food and water and things aren't coming any longer, man alive.
Well, I know, if you think about it this way too, when this is going on now, and a big part of the conversation is, whose job is it to handle this? The governor, the mayor, the president, the senator, the congressman. And when something like this happens, you have to localize these issues. And so, to thinking of I need to rely on some far off government in Washington, D.C. that doesn't really know my issues, I just think that's part of the foolishness in all of this. And we just actually had Dr. Robert Jones on our podcast last week, and he's a vegan philosopher that teaches at a college and lives in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. And I asked him the same kind of questions I was asking you there. And his first thing, and this guy's a complete vegan, is an animal rights guy. Him and I have a good relationship because we respect each other, but we don't. Sure. We absolutely don't think the same way. We don't live our lives the same way. And the first thing he said is self-sufficiency. He was like, "Well, the battery died in my car," and I immediately thought, "Well, I better learn how to change it." And I just said, "Man, you're articulating exactly what we do when we go hunting." There's some version, it's not the whole reason, but there's some baked in version of what you're talking about where, we are warriors, and there is a part of us when all that affluence and comfort goes away. Does the vegan diet make any sense if you're really hungry? Probably not. It doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless you're allergic to meat, and meat is going to hurt you in somewhere where if you say, "Hey, when I eat meat, my throat swells up and I have a tough time breathing." Okay, well, we better find you some vegetables then. I'm not saying you're a vegan, but we better find you some blueberries. We better find you, if we looked at this as if we were in a tribe of 30 people, and one of our tribesmen, every time he ate meat from the animals we killed, he had issues. Well, in reality, he'd probably die. But if we were a highly communicating troop, if we were highly advanced, we would say, okay, Bill needs vegetables, so while we are killing meat, like, we also have to gather, this level of stuff for him to eat. And then obviously this is where survival of the fittest comes. This is where this stuff happens to animals daily. It happens to people occasionally, and it just happens to be happening on a global scale right now. I was reading some numbers yesterday for inadvertent. I wasn't doing research for anything, but I just happened to be reading a paper on doing some research on just different things that are the flu and different things. And I think it said 40,000 people die every month. I think 40,000 people die every month from cigarette smoke. And aside from there being anti-tobacco commercials, we don't even talk about it. 20-some thousand Americans have died from coronavirus. And I know people have thrown around these numbers and said, oh, the flu kills more, car accidents kill more. And I understand that, but I'm just saying, people, one of the biggest difference with cigarettes is that people have to actively choose to smoke, or unfortunately, some people are caught in a secondhand smoke situation where their husband smokes or their wife smokes or their parents smoke or whatever it is. But 40,000 people a month, and we do this to ourselves. And so when a biological agent, something that's invisible, that we can't see, we can't ward off, it becomes really scary. And this one's not even, this one's scary, but it's not even really that scary. Imagine if something came through the human population that there was no cure and it was nearly 100% fatal.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this too. I've been thinking about that too a lot. That's the thing I've been thinking about. This is awful, but it doesn't mean we can't have it deconstruct it and kind of put it in context as best we can. We don't really know much about it to this point.
Yeah,
it'll harden over time about what it actually is. But it's hundreds of thousands of people across this planet have got this. It's killed tens of thousands of people, but it's also brought the global economy to a virtual standstill. It's crushing millions of businesses, large and small. It's putting tens of millions of people, or possibly even hundreds of millions of people, out of work. And like you just said, while it's incredibly infectious, it's not it's not even close to a worst case scenario virus. And so it just denotes to me how fragile this system is we have, how easily toppled it is. And I've said that for years. I've seen Hurricane Harvey in Texas, Hurricane Katrina. There was a F4 tornado that came through the town that I lived in Illinois. So I've seen things kind of shut down in different ways.
Yeah.
And this is just another way, but it just kind of, I know, I'm sure you agree with this. It just shows you how fragile this thing we built is.
It really is. It really is. And like you were just pointing out, this isn't even really a bad one, and I know this is a hot topic and people talk about it all the time, but I'm just using this as an outside example. I'm not professing that this is the way, I'm not professing that this is going to happen or that this is even possible. But if you look at the prions from CWD, right? These elements that cause deer, ungulates to have a fatal disease. These things can, if they're nearly 100% fatal or they are 100% fatal, they can live through extreme cold. They can live through extreme heat. They're relatively communicable through saliva and direct contact. And so you look at something like that traveling through the human population, something like that going through a morph or a mutation to become a zoonotic disease, meaning that people and animals can both get it. And it could be absolutely devastating. I wish I had the study right in front of me so I could quote this intelligently, but I read something, I read about an equation that estimated the spread of disease amongst a human population, and they took liberties to assess this as though there's no cure. It was very communicable, and it was 100% fatal. And if you gave it to a single individual, let's just call it on a train in China, if you gave it to a single individual and there's no antidote and it just spread naturally and people really didn't do social distancing, you know, there was no change in form, no change in lifestyle, the Earth's population would be reduced from nearly 8 billion down to a couple of thousand of people within about 10 days.
Yeah. Wow. Jeez.
And so you just think of that, the doubling rate, and you think about the things that are truly possible. And it's such a weird time. It's such a weird time to think about, you know, people. I'm talking to friends, I'm talking to family members, and they're like, you know, everyone, we're a people of small talk, right? You're a friend of mine, but still, when I bump into you at SHOT Show at ATA, you know, I don't call you or text you every day, but certainly we're pleasant with one another. Certainly, if you invited me to go out and have dinner with you, I would, and hopefully vice versa. We have lots of friends like that are casual or you know, we're great distances of time passed in between engagements, but my point is, like, you look at kind of how we engage as people. We say, hey, how's the weather? Hey, Ben, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing good. You busy? Yeah, I'm super busy. We love to tell each other that we're busy, you know, and say, yeah, isn't it a weird time? It's a weird time. You know, I'm working from home. My wife got laid off. You know, we like to say to these things. I said it to 2 or 3 people today. You know, at the gas station or at the grocery store. Hey, how you doing? Good. Yeah, weird time, isn't it? Yeah, it's so weird. And you know, but really, it's for me and for maybe other hunters, my life hasn't changed all that much. I'm literally sitting in a cabin nearly by myself right now on a chunk of 10 acres of woods. This is where our Sick Manta offices are. And the musician that we work with, Casey Olson, he's in the basement scoring music right now for our new film from ADAC. But, you know, I'm going to go turkey hunting tomorrow. I'm going to grab my bow and I'm going to go turkey hunting tomorrow. I'm going to grab my shotgun and go turkey hunting tomorrow. And you probably are as well. And then I have some writing to do for the new film. And I have to unfortunately write some stuff for Instagram. And I just finished reading Jack Carr's new book, Savage Son, you know, probably like many hunters are reading it right now. So like, you know, like my life hasn't changed all that much other than, you know, there's no traffic. And when I go to the grocery store, you know, there's not a ton of people. And, but yeah, it is just very interesting. And then I think about, what about the person that is, and I'm not making fun of anyone, but what about the person that, you know, he wears designer suits every day. He drives a Ferrari. He works on Wall Street. You know, lives in a big fancy skyrise apartment. Every time he's waiting on the street corner to go to a coffee shop or restaurant, he's waiting with 70 other people to cross the street. Like, I wonder the people that have completely pushed past who we really were as a people. I wonder if those people that have just, like, you know, Hollywood starlets, if you will, or people that are completely disconnected to the outdoors and the wild world. I wonder what they're feeling like right now, what they're going through.
It's a weird. I mean, there's so many things to kind of branch off to with those thoughts. I mean, I know I have, you know, a couple of friends. I want to mention their names. I don't mind they would if I did, but that are, you know, rich, maybe a little famous, like that have resources. Mm-hmm. And they're getting tests for their friends and their, you know, everybody that's around them. They just, you know, spend the money and get the tests where I don't know where they get them from, and I'm not going to ask, and I'm not judging them for doing that. But it does, you know, this thing kind of sets up a natural order of things, like who has the most resources and who is the most efficient with those resources, and it sets up this thing that we would, again, I feel like it's kind of a bridge. This isn't, you know, this isn't a end of times event. It's not the apocalypse, but it kind of has little elements of it that start to set up what it might start to look like if that did happen. Because our world is kind of shut down. It's still running, but it's running on fumes. And so we can kind of look across the bridge and see what an apocalyptic situation might look like. Who gets saved, who gets trampled, who can survive, who might not. I mean, I don't know if you agree with that, but I find myself kind of saying like it's just a gentle enough crisis that it has elements of true apocalyptic notions, but it's not that. Like
No,
you said,
but
you're
it
still
has all
normal.
the ingredients.
Right, yeah. I mean, it does have all the ingredients. And it's so that's what makes it interesting. And I don't know what you think, but sometimes I feel a little bit guilty about how my life is pretty great right now. Like I've set it up in such a way that maybe it was set up for this, but it wasn't intentional. I didn't say like, hey, if we set our lives up this way, we'll be okay in a pandemic. But we certainly are, and I've talked to a lot of people that aren't. So I don't know how you think about that, because I know you're doing just fine.
Yeah, and it's the same way. I don't. It's the same way. I've seen people that I know that are very affluent, and same thing. They're there's. I don't know the science behind this, so I can't speak to it. But there's people are talking, and I don't watch TV and I don't watch the news. So even if you told me today what's going on, and I had somebody today ask me about what's going on with elections, and I have no idea, and so I just don't know all the hot topics that are going around that have to do with COVID-19. But I completely agree with you that this has the ingredients of what the Armageddon might look like. And unfortunately, I think it's pretty cool. You see all these people staying at home. Our higher ups, whether they're right or wrong, have kind of come out and said, hey, everyone, we want to slow the curve. Everyone likes to talk about it. And so let's have some social distancing. And it's pretty remarkable that we've all done it. It's pretty remarkable that for the most part, people are doing it. And then on the negative side of things, to see people really panic and to see them hoarding toilet paper and hoarding other things really is indicative of, you might mow your lawn, I mow my lawn, we say hello when we pass one another, we are semi-cordial. But some of these people, like, it really seems so short-sighted that you would go to a store and hoard things to try to make sure that you have yours and no one else gets theirs. And I said this to a friend of mine, and she was laughing, and I wasn't being all that facetious, but and I apologize, Ben, if this offends you or any of your listeners. I don't think it's going to offend you, but multiple times on my journeys, and I'm gonna call it hundreds of times, I have wiped my butt with rocks. And, and I was laughing because I was listening to Andy Stumpf talk to this about Rogan. And he was like, I heard him say something like, people, I'm a Navy SEAL or whatever he was saying. And he was basically saying, like, there are things that you need to survive. There are things that you need to do on a really bad day. There are things that you need to do to protect your family and provide for your family. But I assure you, toilet paper has never saved anyone's life. And it's just so ridiculous. And when I heard about people buying toilet paper, I was dismissing it because I wasn't watching the news. So friends of mine were telling me, like, hey, do you have enough toilet paper? I'm like, I don't know. And they're like, well, you got to go out and get some. It's all going away. And I said, man, I'll go out in a yard and I'll wipe my butt with my hand and I'll rinse it off with a hose. I could care less if I have to do that. And I said to a friend of mine one time, I said, I've wiped my butt hundreds of times with rocks. And she said, you're kidding me. I said, no. I said, I even have a little method of how I do it, where I, take a rock and do the first one, throw it, grab another rock. And as you progress from the beginning to end, you go from rough rock to smoother rocks. And I said, you'd be surprised at how freaking clean you can get when
I love it.
And, because there's times when we've run out of toilet paper. There's times where we forgot toilet paper. There's times where our toilet paper got soaking wet because it was in the wrong pocket and somebody didn't do their job. It very much could have been me and didn't put the toilet paper inside of a Cedar Summit bag or a Kuyu bag or a Ziploc bag. And so there's all sorts of things that happen in the bush that make you have to kind of cut corners. But yeah, my life hasn't changed that much. I'm very sad we have had some, we own a production company called Sick Manta. We've had some shoots get canceled. So it's hurt our bottom line in that regard, but that's just business. Sometimes that happens for no reason at all. We've had shoots get canceled, so we can't blame that entirely on COVID-19. But Yeah, I think it's interesting, and I've heard people trying to put saunas, people that are affluent that I know, they're trying to put saunas in their houses because they heard that taking saunas every day is going to help, and I'm sure it would. Saunas are pretty healthy regardless. I'm not saying it's going to kill COVID-19, but you know what I'm talking about. People are talking about vitamin therapies and taking cold showers and hot baths and all these different things that people are trying to better themselves. But really, for me, and I've talked about this to a few people, but having that presence, like you kind of just spoke about, that presence, that mindfulness, I think it's really sad that people are looking out for themselves, and people, I read something somewhere where a gun owner said, and I'm sure you probably read it too because it was on social media, but he said something like, how funny, I see my anti-gun neighbor stockpiling a bunch of goods in his garage. I'll just go over there later after he gets it all full. I'll just go over there later with my gun and take it all. And I know you think that's disgusting. I don't even have to ask your opinion, but it's just like, I would much rather get my gun set up to defend some sort of enemy, whether that be foreign or domestic, and get my toilet paper to my neighbors, get my food to my neighbors, get my food to my family, to people that need it, to your family. I would much rather suffer, burn, and die than to have one of my neighbors or a perfect stranger even go through that. I would much rather shake their hand, look them in the eye, and say, hey, I've got this. Let's get you taken care of. To me, that is far more interesting. That is far more the element of how I want to live my life than going to the grocery store and stocking up on toilet paper.
O'Reilly Auto Parts are in the business of keeping your car on the road. O'Reilly Auto Parts offer friendly, helpful service and the parts knowledge you need for all your maintenance and repairs. If you're confused about what part you need, like what wipers are going to be the best, what replacement headlights are going to be the best, go into O'Reilly and talk to the people that work there because they're great and they're super friendly, and they'll get you squared away where you walk out knowing you got the right thing. They've got thousands of parts and accessories in stock, either in-store or online, so you never have to worry if you're in a jam. Do you need your windshield wipers replaced? You need a brake light fixed? You need some quick service? They'll help you find the right part or point you to the nearest local repair shop for help. The professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts are your one-stop shop for all things auto do-it-yourself, and you can find what you need in-store or online. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit us at O'ReillyAuto.com/MeatEater. That's O'ReillyAuto.com/MeatEater. There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store, or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today. You ever get that feeling you're stuck inside staring at screens and a primal urge kicks in? You crave wide open spaces, fresh air, the chance to connect with the land. Well, maybe it's time to find your own piece of the wild, but searching for property can be a maze. That's where Land.com comes in. They got millions of listings across the country, from mountain ranches to hidden fishing holes. Their search tools are like a seasoned guide helping you narrow down what you want. Land.com isn't just about buying and selling. It's about finding a place to hunt, fish, explore, or simply sit by a campfire and listen to the crickets. So head over to Land.com today to turn one day into today, because trust me, there's nothing quite like the feeling of standing on your own piece of earth.
All the things we're talking about are true. That, you know, I find comfort in a full freezer and a full gun safe. I do.
Yes, of course.
But I've been very careful, trying to be very careful. I speak a lot into a microphone, so you never really know. But I've been trying to be very careful not to flaunt that to other people as if it makes me better than them. somehow, or stronger than them somehow. I feel exactly how you feel, and in terms of like, hey man, I do this. I don't knit my own clothes. Maybe you knit your own clothes. Maybe you have another way to be self-sufficient that I don't know. So let's trade those things. Like that's how you're going to get somewhere and build a community. And maybe this thing ends up being a positive at the end of the day, because we can start to understand how important our neighbors are, and people that live within direct, close proximity to us, how important they are and how helpful they can be. Because I've lived in a lot of places, and a lot of places I've lived, your neighbors barely can be bothered to wave at you. It's not that way where I live now, but it's been that way. I would say the bulk of places where I've lived over my life, and I've moved around quite a bit. So I just wonder, what kind of positive things can we glean from this? And the bigger question that I know you'll have, just given your background, you'll have some thoughts on, is like, how does this, this kind of thing came from that zoologic, like it came from nature in a way, or at least our interaction with nature.
Oh, there's not even in a way. This is nature, Ben. This is exactly how it's designed to move through. Yeah, and I've had, and this is silly, I did not do this. I have not done this on any level, but I had a couple of people reach out to me, maybe 10 or 20 people reach out to me and said, oh my word, you predicted this. Because I would say things on podcasts, or I'd say things in doing interviews with people, and I would say, this is Mother Nature is going to reach up and take, this is anthropomorphizing an idea, but she's going to reach up and take back what is hers. Let's call it the earth. And so this is how recycling works. And so, I haven't predicted anything. The fact of the matter is, since I started my education at the university, and since I started talking to biologists and talking to medical doctors and talking to zoologists and people that really understood how populations ebb and flow, I used to work for an amazing ecologist named Dr. Dave Smith at the University of Minnesota, and he, these things, not only is this Mother Nature, this is literally how it's designed to work. We are a population of animals. We are a ball of rock and water that is warmed by the sun. We rotate around the sun. It's really that simple. Plants and animals grow on the face of this thing. We as people, because we have complex brains and because we have opposable thumbs, we have developed borders in which we defend them with guns, and we overthrow other societies, and we fight for goods, and we have trading policies, and we now have politics, and we as a species has both evolved from what we were, from great apes, into what we are as a people right now, and then we, from the fact that we have complex brains and opposable thumbs, we have developed this infrastructure of travel, this infrastructure of communication, of wherewithal, and politics, and technical weapons, and technical devices. I mean, look at what we're doing right now, Ben. Look at the conversation that you and I are having right now. I'm looking at a little spot on a map where you are. You're looking at a little spot on a map where I am, and we're both talking into microphones. It's pretty sensational. But I think that, we have almost 8 billion people on the face of the earth. At some point, something is going to happen that is going to travel through that population of people and wipe us out. And I mean entirely. I don't mean COVID-19. I mean with entirety. Now, it's not that often that a population gets wiped out. There's this idea of, viruses mutate, bacteria mutate, they become resistant. People will also mutate, right? If there is an ailment, let's call it, whatever, call it whatever you want. Just, if there was a virus that ran through the human population and killed 90% of the people on Earth, the 10% remaining were either a mutation of a previous human that is resistant to that virus that just rolled through the population, or they contracted the virus and for whatever reason became symptomatic, developed antibodies, and continued living. So that population of people, let's say it's down to 2,500 people, that population of people will start repopulating the earth. And it's this idea, I've said it before, it's called differential reproductive success. Those people, it's survival of the fittest. Those are the people that survived. They are the most fit for that situation. They start procreating, creating children that are also resistant, maybe even more resistant than their parents as the populations continue. And, there are animals that do this in the wild. There are snakes that are resistant to poison, and so they eat animals, frogs, lizards that are super poisonous. They'll eat these things and they'll live through the poison. But then the next population of prey ups their poison level and thus killing a few snakes. But then a couple of snakes eat those animals and get very, very sick, but survive. Then their offspring is even more resistant. Well, that's how we as people, that's what we're going to start experiencing more and more, because we're starting to achieve carrying capacity on the face of the earth. I said this to Rogan. I think I said this to Rogan, and he was like, no. Because I said...
It's a scary thing to think of, dude. It's a hard intellectual hurdle to get over.
It is. And people, we like to think that we are people. We like to think that animals are animals. We like to, we buy deer licenses. We go hunting. We shoot deer. We're hunters. They're the prey. How could we possibly be in the same class of animals that they are? But the fact of the matter is, we are animals. And no matter how complex we are, if this element rolls through our population, it's going to respond very much like it is right now. And this is the natural order of things. Now, the piece of this that is unnatural is how closely we are to one another. We don't have geographical borders anymore, barriers. We don't live on different continents now to where we can't get to the other continent. If something went through Africa and just wiped Africa out, but we weren't sailing between continents, certainly not flying, but we weren't even sailing between continents, whatever wiped out Africa would stay in Africa, and that population, that subset population that was left over, would be resilient to whatever that was, and it would start repopulating the continent with another form of human that is mutated to handle that disease or virus. But it wouldn't come to North America or South America until something here mutated. So, but the way we travel right now, if something scary really comes down the pike, we're going to experience it.
Yeah, there's a bunch of things in that. But if you would just start at, because I think there's an idea that's interesting to explore in this. I think there's a lot of, if you read a lot of, there's influential thinkers that believed, and there's people to this day that believe like a coronavirus style event like this, that through technology and progress and innovation and science and data, that we can overpower nature, right? So, or we can kind of harness nature to do our bidding. There's a strange and probably overly philosophical discussion in there, but it goes back to the 17th century. There's a lot of this idea when you read like Descartes, and I read this in an article the other day where he says, we can render ourselves the masters and possessors of nature. Like if we only can progress far enough, we'll have control over this natural world, and we'll be able to kind of shape it in our own way. And I think what we're talking about here is that, maybe, but checkmate when the natural world decides to take it back.
Yeah. I mean, check like you tell me how much technology helps you with an F5 tornado.
Yeah. Yep.
And something like this, like it is, we are very technically advanced, right? We're talking about creating a vaccine to COVID-19 in a couple of years. That, to my knowledge, vaccines are amazing. It drives me nuts that vaccines have got a bad reputation over the years, because vaccines are amazing, and most of the bad reputation that have followed vaccines is basically wives' tales, in my opinion. And so the fact that these guys can even talk about creating a vaccine in a couple of years is astonishing to me. But so that is fantastic, right? That is going to face this strain of a virus head on, but there's going to be something else that comes. It's just a natural way. It's not. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole that's going to get me in trouble. But it's this is just the natural world. It isn't good. It isn't bad. This isn't punishment or reward. This isn't. Some people might say, we're overpopulated, and so we have to kill a bunch of people. Like and that's not what this is. This is just what happens to a population, and sometimes these things can result in and be devastating, and sometimes they just burn through like a wildfire, and then everything starts to regrow behind it. And that's basically how I look at this stuff. But we have the technology to create a vaccine, so we can ward it off, and we can fight against it, and we can move past it as a population. But really, something else is going to come down the pike. I think this is a good time. I've heard people talking about that they've really enjoyed the quiet time with their families, and that they've really enjoyed some closeness with their neighbors in just the regard of, waving to one another and just having a sense of community, even from a short distance. And because these are usually the people that we're passing on the freeway when we're going to our jobs, but now they're home, we're home, so we're able to wave and have these discussions even from afar. And so I think that's really remarkable in that regard. But I think this is a fantastic time to think about presence and mindfulness. This is a fantastic time to think about, like you said, like your life, like you've inadvertently set your life up to be very successful in this type of response. And I think that's really just probably true to your interests and my interests. We enjoy hunting. We have freezers full of game. We enjoy foraging in the forest so we can find some fun food to eat. We enjoy being outside. So like tomorrow morning, I'm going turkey hunting. Tomorrow morning, when the sun starts coming up and I start hearing toms gobbling on treetops, I might as well have won the lottery. I'm not doing it to social distance myself. I'm not doing it to say, hey, I'm going to go out in the woods tomorrow because I can't go to the store, can't go to the movie theater. I'm sick of watching TV. I'm just going to go outside. No, this is what I do, whether there's a camera with me or not. And tomorrow morning when those birds start firing off, even if they don't, even if there isn't a turkey within 10 miles and I just have to listen to songbirds and watch deer come out in the morning, I'm going to feel like I won the lottery. And I think that's really, for people, get to that point or realize that point, or maybe take a step back from this and say, okay, maybe my best day doesn't come from a speedboat. Do you know what I mean? Maybe there's something else here that's right at my fingertips that I can do that makes me really enjoy life, that I can do even in a scenario such as this.
Yeah, that's a great way to articulate. I mean, I'm doing the same day tomorrow, all day, and I was doing it yesterday evening, and there were sandhill cranes walking through this field, red-winged blackbirds flying overhead. There was some turkeys around. It was snowing. There was deer walking around, and I was just thinking. And I've tried to articulate this, I think, on the show before, and I've definitely tried to articulate this to my wife, and I don't think I do it right. So maybe I don't think I quite get it out the right way, and because it's a hard thing to say. I told her the other day. I said, I think the reason why I was drawn to live in a place like Montana is because I could visually see the representation of joy when I look at the mountains. I know what's over there, and I know what it means to me. And nothing else has to happen except my ability to access it. And that's why I'm a big component of public lands, is because I've lived in places where there aren't public lands, and I now live in a place where there are millions of acres of place I could spend the rest of my life and not touch them all. And so it's like that idea that what you just described is available to me at any time, whether I'm hunting or just want to go watch some birds, or make a fire and watch some birds with my 3-year-old. I mean, that's there. And so there's this place, I know that's there. So it makes me comfortable. It allows me to be happy when times get tough, because I know there's this joy right over there hanging around in those mountains, and all I got to do is find the time to go and explore it. And so that it's like a comfort blanket in a weird way for me. I know that's probably overly philosophical for just explaining why you love to go outside, but it is this time does denote that, right? When we're turkey hunting, it doesn't matter if there's a pandemic on or if something's going on in town. You know, if a business is shut down, you're just out there doing it. And to have that in your life is an important thing, and especially to have that divorced from our society, other than the fact that they need to allow us to access it. That's pretty great.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And I know people like to say like you're being overly philosophical, but really that's it. Really, if you take any time at all to think about it, you take any time at all to really think about who you are and what you really want. What would you do? What would you do if you're on this earth by yourself? What really would you be doing if you were here all alone? And I just think I think it's very, very important. And I think a lot of people, potentially a lot of people struggle with that question of, are they doing what they really enjoy doing? Are they chasing something that their friends are chasing? Are they chasing something that their spouse is chasing? Do they not? You know, I've met people that, you know, I have a couple buddies. I have a couple of buddies that all they do is hunt whitetail deer. They don't fish. They don't hunt ducks. They don't hunt elk. They don't want to hunt Dall sheep. These guys hunt whitetail deer. If I gave them a free stone sheep hunt, if I said, hey, you guys, I want a stone sheep hunt and I can't go, do you guys want to go? They'd be like, no, thanks, man. Like, and I could tell them, hey, it's a very expensive hunt. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, find someone else. We like to, you know, we're hunting deer at that time or whatever it is. Like, and I envy these guys because I like it all. I'm a birder. I'm a turkey hunter. I'm a fly fisherman. I'm a bass fisherman. I'm a muskie fisherman. I like, you know, stopping and looking at insects. I like doing habitat work. So I'm guilty of it all, and thus I kind of, you know, bounce around outside, kind of like a kid in a fun house and looking at all the mirrors at a carnival, and I don't know what to look at or to go do next because I want to do it all. And I have a couple of buddies that all they do is fish bass. That's it. No walleyes, no muskies, no saltwater. They don't fly fish. It is just bass all the time, full time, and I kind of envy that. But then I have a group of friends also that I've asked, like, so what are you into? They do different things. They'll go to parties, they'll go out to dinner, they do some cooking, things like that. But I ask them, like, you know, what are you into? You know, what are your hobbies? And they can't even articulate what a hobby might be. You know, I'd say, well, do you like boats? Well, yeah, I like to go out on the water. You know, do you like hunting? Well, I don't really like being cold. Okay, well, do you like video games? Oh, I've played video games a little bit. And they can't, there's nothing that's really burns them, and so I kind of feel sorry for people like that. But you're exactly right. Call it. I've received a few letters over the years, not many, maybe 5, maybe 10, where guys are like, "Hey man, stop with all the fancy talk. Don't waste your time writing with all these fancy words. I don't know why you have to be so philosophical or you have to be so deep, just hunt," and I could care less what they have to say, because when I'm sitting there on the ground in the morning and I see an American redstart come and land on a hickory bush in front of me and sit there and spread his wings out and do his little song and dance, then flitter off, that is going to make my day. That is really honestly going to move me. There's not going to be a camera there. I'm not being filmed tomorrow morning. I don't have a photographer. It's going to be me sitting there against a tree with prickly ash all around me, and I got a couple of big oak trees that I know some toms have been using, and I'm going to go in there, and to me, that's literally everything. If I think about, what would you do, Ben, if you were here by yourself, or what would you do? Honestly, Ben, what would you do if you were a billionaire? What would you do if you were a billionaire? What would you do?
I'd hunt way more. That's it.
Yeah, you would buy more land. You would do the exact same thing I would. You would buy more land. You would take more of your friends to go do things that you've maybe seen and want them to see, because that's fun to do that. And you would, I don't know. I mean, maybe you have, maybe deep down inside you want to own a Lamborghini or something like that I don't know of. But what I would do is I would buy land, and I would probably buy some of my buddies' land. I can't imagine the curse I call it a curse, but I can't imagine the curse of being as bright as Jeff Bezos and as, Bill Gates and these guys that are just mega, mega wealthy. That has got to be like you're indebted to society. People really look at you from everything from jobs to donations to philanthropy to tell us the next big idea. Where's the economy going? Help us. What is going on with disease? How do we find cures? Can you please pay for this? Like the responsibility's got to be absolutely tremendous. But like I don't know. I get to the point. I don't know how much money I would need to live my quote unquote dream life, because I feel like I'm living it right now to an extent. I would definitely do things like I don't live on a 5,000 acre farm. If I had that kind of money, I would live on a 5,000 acre farm, right? And so, but that's what I think about, like what you would do if you're a billionaire. What would you do if you were here by yourself? Because I'm doing it because I want to do it.
Yeah. Well, that's it, right? There's the thing that those of us that are kind of in the, and that's why I think when you say about, casual friends or acquaintances that we all kind of think. And I see this because I interview people, weekly, if not daily at some point. And everybody seems to have that same, especially in this quarantine, I've learned it, same comfort level. They have that same knowledge that, they know. And I imagine somebody that loves to play piano might feel this too. But they know the thing that kind of brings them the ultimate happiness, or at least gives them fulfillment. And once you know what that is, then all you want to do is chase that thing. All you want to do is go running after that feeling, and all the money you'd ever earn would just be would be applied therein. You would just be taking that money and throwing it at that thing. that will bring you that ultimate fulfillment. So it's good. It's good to have that.
Absolutely. You think like rock climbers. Or like that's a perfect example of being a pianist. Like that guy. What a joy. His fingertips can bring him everything that he wants. Or, he can find a solstice in just playing that music and hearing that music, like in that Stephen, I think it's Stephen King's Shawshank Redemption. Was that him? Was that Stephen King?
I don't think so. Okay. Either way, it's a great movie.
Yeah. Anyway, when the one prisoner, Andy Dufresne is in the hole, and he had for playing Mozart over the warden's speakers, and when he got out, his buddies were like, how terrible was that? And he's like, oh, it wasn't that bad. I had Mozart with me, and those guys were kind of like, what do you mean? They let someone you had someone with you? And he's like, no, it was in my mind. It's they can't take that away, and that's kind of what I'm talking about, is that. Having that, being that pianist, being able to play your music for you and to pour yourself into learning more music and playing music. And, you think about rock climbers, right? Rock climbers always get, and skiers, they always get kind of earmarked of like, yeah, I'm just a rock climbing bum. I live in a van and I eat peanut butter and jelly. Well, it's not because they're poor. It's because they're rich. It's because all they need is a down sleeping bag, a few pieces of Fjallraven clothing or Patagonia clothing, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and a rock wall with their ropes and anchors. And if you're Alex Honnold, you don't even need that. And if you're free soloing, and so like you think of these things like these guys, the ones that appear to be bums, the surfers that sleep on the beach or in a little tent, the fly fishermen, these guys that are just camping next to the river. Like, it's just because that's all they need. We're capable of fantastic good, and we're capable of fantastic bad. And so I think this does give us a little heads up and the ability to adjust. And I wonder, I've heard experts say that we won't go back. I read this the other day that somebody was surmising that we won't go back to restaurants. We won't go back to shaking hands and giving hugs and kisses. We won't, movie theaters will never be the same. Concerts will never be the same, and I disagree. I think people will forget about this relatively quickly, and we'll fall right back into that false sense of security, that lull of security, and going back to feeling somewhat invincible. But I think the people that are going through it right now will maybe the ones with presence, the ones that have wherewithal will think about this in much the way that your grandmother or great-grandmother, I'd be shocked if you didn't say this yourself at one point in your life where someone says, man, Ben, your grandmother has 8 frying pans, and you say, oh, I know she won't throw anything out. She lived through the Great Depression, and she'll find a use for every one of those frying pans, and if it comes to it, she'll give a frying pan to a neighbor, and she's saving that old bicycle because if she takes the front wheel off that bicycle, that makes that bicycle functional, or whatever it may be. We find ourselves saying, oh yeah, my great grandmother lived during the Great Depression, so she saves all those things, and because back then they had to make use of all those things, and the more of that stuff that you had, the more you're able to sidestep and adapt to either make something run or to get transportation or food or to cultivate food, whatever it may be. So I think the people that are impacted this on the front lines, the people that see this, taste this, smell this, maybe the people that are in New York City, maybe the people that are in Northern Italy, like the people that have seen the blood and guts of this virus, of this pandemic, will go forward in life with a different perspective. And some of that, I think, this is going to sound terrible. I don't know how to say this without it sounding terrible, but this is sometimes a bit of a reward, a bit of a, kind of a pre-checkmate, a slap in the face. You've been punched now. So now you can wake up, your cheek is stinging, your teeth are loose, you're nervous, you're in pain, like you now have ultimate presence. You've entered into your parasympathetic nervous system. You are wide awake. And so I think some of this stuff is kind of good. To give you a point of this, I went and spoke with a young man last winter, I think it was, and he's a burn victim. And I went and sat in I didn't want to go see him. I didn't want to go visit him. If I'm being honest, I was nervous about it. I wasn't sure what I was going to say to him. He's already burnt up pretty bad. And so I was like, he's going to be bandaged up and I'm going to be sitting there. And he kind of wanted to meet me and just have a day of it. And I went over there, and as soon as the walls kind of came down and I was able to spend time with him, I spent the whole afternoon with him. And I loved it. I loved talking to him, and I loved talking to his family. And I said something to him towards the end of our time together. I said, man, you're so lucky that you got burned. And I saw his mom just snapped her head across the room. And I saw his dad, he kind of looked at me a little bit, but then I saw the emotion on his dad's face almost instantly. He kind of got it. And his mom was looking at me very concerned, like I was going to say something stupid. And I said, you're super lucky. And he looked at me puzzled. I said, man, like now everything in your life is going to be measured against having your entire body burned. You already know what it's like to have a horrible day. So like everything else in your life, pizza's going to taste better. Desserts are going to taste better. A walk with your girlfriend is going to be better. The sunrise, a turkey gobble, he's a hunter. Your next elk bugle, like these things are going to be better. Driving a car again, when you can, in the springtime, roll the windows down, turn the radio up, and go fast on a backcountry road in your car. These things are going to be better. And they're probably going to lessen over time, because you getting burned is going to diminish in your mind, and you're going to kind of forget the pain that you went through. You're going to forget the hardship that you went through, but it should always be there to kind of remind you of what a bad day is like. And that's kind of what I mean when we talk about people that are sitting on the front lines of this or even anything else, right? We achieve tragedy every day as a people. We see horrible things with animals. We see horrible things with people, weather events, people in Kansas don't deserve to have an F5 tornado rip through their town, and babies lose their lives and grandpas lose their lives. And this is real tragedy, but it also gives us an opportunity to grow. And it also gives us an opportunity to lend a hand to people that either can't fight for themselves or can't maybe find their way exactly right now. And so I think there are silver linings to things like this.
Oh, for sure, man. And I'm glad you brought up that, like, our grandparents' generation. We were talking about this the other day. I think I was talking to Guy and Ike Eastman about this. on the show, and exactly that. We always say, "Oh man, that's just that generation. They worked that hard. They understood loss. They knew why each morning they had to get up at 4 a.m. and work till 8 o'clock. They were built differently." And the point you make is great, man. It's very well stated in that they were molded into that by incredible hardship. They were molded into kind of a different type of human, even in a lot of ways. At least the ones that succeeded and got out of there with some success. My grandfather was very much that way. He worked, and that's what he did. And he knew if he worked hard enough, he could make a good life. But there was no good life without hard work. And that's because he came from that era, and he knew what it was like. So maybe we can use this as a seminal moment like that to say we know what we have to do to be better than the next pandemic. Man, that's incredibly well put on your part. I think if anybody could take anything from you or from listening to this, man, that's hopefully that can really put this into perspective, because I think at some level that's what we're all searching for. Just like perspective. What's going on here? What's going on in your life? How do you think we can make this better? Because there's this void of that there just isn't enough facts and data out there, and it's just created a void of confusion, and we're gonna fill that with something.
Yeah, absolutely. It's we can't live our lives. We cannot live our lives like this is our last day on earth, but we have to try to get as close to that as possible. And when bad things happen, gets us a little bit closer to that. We're able to celebrate little things a little bit more. And tomorrow morning, you're going turkey hunting. Tomorrow morning, I'm going turkey hunting. If we were able to face these tomorrow as it's our last. If somebody said, hey, Ben, God forbid this is, obviously, knock on wood, hopefully none of this happens to any of us, but, let's just say somebody was able to come to you, Ben, and say, hey, yeah, tomorrow afternoon when you're on your way home from turkey hunt, you're going to fall asleep at the wheel across the center line, and that's going to be the end of your life. But you still have to go about your time. You still have to take from this moment forward, all the way through the turkey hunt, all the way up to you're going to lose your life. Well, you would harness each and every second of that turkey hunt. You can't live that way. It's impossible to have that level of presence for that length of time. But you can keep reminding yourself, much like you take active, deep breaths, right? The people that truly know about how we should move our bodies and how we should train for fitness and how we should train our minds and books we should read, the people that really know how to get the most from their bodies say, stop mindless breathing. Stop just breathing, shallow breathing to get you through your day. Stop multiple times throughout a day and take multiple deep breaths, as deep as you can pull in, as deep as you can push out. Take some mindful breaths, fill your lungs, invigorate your red blood cells, your hemoglobin with oxygen. Get your cells flowing, get your body flowing. It's kind of like that. Like if you can do that a few times a day and really shock your body, really fire your body up. That's an amazing thing. So it's just the same thing. I'm not going to hunt turkeys tomorrow like it's my last turkey hunt, but I'm going to try damn hard to think about it multiple times throughout the morning and the afternoon. And now that I know that you're going turkey hunting, I'll bet you $1 million tomorrow morning when I'm sitting there at 5 a.m. in the pitch black, I'm going to be thinking about, I wonder if Ben's out. I wonder, you're an hour off of me mountain time, but I'm going to say, when it's 6 a.m. my time and I'm just getting ready to look at birds, or maybe even I'm already done, you're going to be just beginning your morning of being out there. And so, I'm going to think about this now. I promise you. It's not that you and I are best friends. We're not, but I will think about you tomorrow morning because I'll wonder what you're seeing. I wonder what the temperature is going to be by you. This is just how my mind works. And I'll be hoping for you to have success. I really will. Like this is, I think about these things, but to me, that's the trick, is trying to figure out how you go through your day to live it as though it is your last. It's impossible, like I said, but when bad things happen it gives us an opportunity to see the good, and it gives us an opportunity to better ourselves.
Yeah, man. It's so beautifully put. And like, we're not anywhere close to each other right now, many states away. But I could feel the energy that you put into this, man. Like I could feel, like I know everybody listening will feel the same way. It's like there's certain people that are inspirational for their ideas, but man, like you're that, but also the energy that, like the way you speak about this and the cadence of your voice, even trying to describe what it is to be outside, like it's inescapable to me that you have this like immense, complete love for this stuff, and it comes through. So I'm glad we can have this conversation so people can see, whether they get just little, your films have been renowned in our industry, but they're just like little snippets of who you are, and so is social media, just little snippets of who you are. But I think a lot of like what I appreciate about you came out just now. Like the amount of just incessant energy you put into this stuff is unreal, and it's frankly inspiring. So thank you.
I appreciate that, Ben. Appreciate that very much.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming and spending an hour with us. I will. We should be texting tomorrow in the morning because I'll be thinking about you now too, and all the crazy success and failure. I've got my butt kicked a couple of days already by Turkey, so I have all this like pent up energy.
Yeah, I have too. I've been hunting in the snow, and
yeah, me too.
It's less than inspiring to walk out a half a mile over crunchy snow, and it just it drives you a little bit nuts to think that you're alerting everything in earshot. So
yeah.
But absolutely, man. Yeah, let's stay in contact tomorrow morning and see what we can figure out.
All right, brother. Well, it was great to spend time with you, man. I hope you guys are continuously happy, healthy over there, and can't wait to see that big tom you kill in the morning.
Anytime, Ben. I really appreciate it. I really, really do. I know all your guests say that, but I really do appreciate the you guys having the ideas to have me on and to give me an opportunity to talk. It's really special to me. It's not ever lost on the elements that you guys do, all the different podcasts you guys do. I know you're very busy, and I just appreciate that occasionally my name pops up.
It's awesome, man. I wish we had about 3 more hours to go, but Phil, our engineer, is telling me we're running out of our Squadcast minutes. He just texted me. He's like, "Hey, we only have so many minutes on our program." So Squadcast, not a sponsor. We need more minutes. We need more minutes. All right, dude. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Ben.
See ya. That's it. That's all. Another episode in the books. Thank you, Phil, for surprising us and delighting us with your crapping in the woods story, buddy. I really appreciate that.
Hey, of course. Anytime. I'm not going to crap in the woods anytime, but I'll try to surprise you.
Anytime. I needed it. I needed it. A great conversation with Donnie Vincent. Another thing that was energizing for me, as I said at the end of the interview there, like Donnie's a lot of things, but the one thing that I found over chatting with him and spending a little time with him and kind of having similar passions to him, it's like he has energy. Like you can feel it. It comes off the guy. And he has a great mind for conservation, a great mind for wildlife. And I'm glad that he's willing to come on and chat with us. So thank you, Donnie, for doing that. Thank you to Mark Kenyon of Wired to Hunt, Back 40. Make sure to check Mark out at Wired to Hunt. And over there, just Wired to Hunt podcast. If you're not listening to that, you ought to be. And Phil, as is kind of the way we do things here, we're changing it up a little bit. We're going to take out, there's like a moment before the music comes on where you and I kind of explain what's about to happen. I felt that was a little bit redundant, in all honesty, and so we're going to remove it. But we got these new ads that are playing before the show. And so I just want you guys to know what you're listening to, and that's just that. You're going to hear a couple of ads, what we call pre-roll. See, that's an industry term, Phil. Just roll that in there for the listener. What we call a pre-roll ad.
You're really revealing the secrets.
Podcasting is complicated. And then it's going to get right into the music. And one thing we have to say, old number 7 is music that we've had for going on a year now. We took out the words. I don't know. I think we took out the words because on a whim, I said, let's take out the words. on a similar whim, I'm going to tell Phil now to put them back in. So put them back in, Phil. We want the words back. So you're getting, those of you who wrote in and asked where the words went or why the song changed, you're getting them back. Because this is how I work. I make decisions on whims, and everybody has to deal with it. Right, Philip?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's a lot of fun dealing with your whims.
Is it?
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. I'm detecting a bit of sarcasm there, buddy. Well, thanks for sitting through poop stories again, vasectomy stories, ticks in weird places, and the insights of Donnie Vincent. Another good episode. Next week, Jesse Griffiths. Jesse Griffiths is down in Austin, Texas. He's a restaurateur. He sources all the food from his restaurant and eatery, Daidue, from local merchants, from local farmers, from local sources. So he has a unique perspective on the COVID crisis, on running a restaurant in this time, and what it means to get your food from your community, from your region, rather than elsewhere. So I'm looking forward to that. We'll also talk about turkey recipes, and we have you'll like this, Phil, we have a great pea debate. Because culinary expert Jesse Griffiths loves a nice pea.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
And I believe they are the devil's balls.
There's the reason he's the culinary expert.
That's right. And he challenges me to come down to Austin, and we're going to have a pea tasting where he's going to try to get me to turn my opinion. I just told him peas, just like White Claws, are part of the brand here. Anti-peas, pro-White Claws, this is where we settled on this podcast.
So even if you secretly liked peas, you would never admit it. It would not be a green eggs and ham situation where you tried them and you loved them. Right?
Yeah. I try to be honest with everyone, so maybe if I love them, I might tell you, but it's doubtful. It's doubtful. Sorry, International Legume Association or whatever. That's what's going on in my brain right now. So I'm looking forward to next week. We're still rolling on in the quarantine. That's all I got. Is that all you got, Phil?
Yep, that's it.
That's it. All right. See ya.
Too long, 'cause I can't go a week without doing wrong. Without doing wrong. Without doing wrong. Without doing wrong. Drinking in heaven.
You ever get that feeling the walls closing in, the concrete jungle suffocating you? You crave some wide open spaces, the chance to connect with nature, maybe in a spot all your own. Well, head over to land.com. They've got ranches, forests, mountains, streams, you name it. Search by acreage. You can search by location. You can search by the kind of hunting and fishing you're dreaming of. Land.com. It is where the adventure begins.
As you know, the Meat Eater Live Tour is on April 23rd through May 5th. Chances are in a town near you. What you may not know is you can win tickets to each of these events just by going to a Backcountry Hunters and Anglers Pint Night. There's going to be a pint night in each of these towns: San Diego, Salt Lake City, Tempe, Anaheim, Boise, Sacramento, Missoula, Portland, Tacoma, where you can compete in Meat Eater trivia and win not only tickets to the show, but a chance to be on stage with all of us. So get your butt to a pint night, and we'll see you on stage.